So thanks to all of you for joining us today. Much appreciated. We are with Magda de Carli, who is head of unit at DG EARTO and deputy director. She is responsible for spreading excellence and the research career. And ERA is one of the big topics as the key one. We have worked with Magda for many years, also in previous position in the commission. So very happy to have her following up the ERA environment at the moment. She knows us and EARTO's quite well, so it's nice to see also all the developments and the new energy she brought to the ERA dossier. So very much thank you for taking the time for us. And we will start with a short with a presentation of Magda on the news and then some Q&A. You guys can use the chat. If you can keep your mic off, I will do mine as well. There is works on the street, so it's a little bit noisy on my side. I hope you can hear well anyway. So with no delay, I think Magda, I let you the floor. If you say next, Milan will move the slide for you, and then you let me know when closing, and then we'll go to the Q&A, and people can use the chat in the same time. Thanks for being here, Magda. Much appreciated.
Oh, thanks a lot, Muriel. Good afternoon to everyone. Sorry, I have the ping because I don't know if you hear that, but I get all the notification of people in the salle d'attente for coming into the meeting. But if I mute that, I will mute myself, I'm afraid. So
we can't hear, so you're fine.
You don't? Okay, that's.
So you can hear your success. It pings every time. Are you muted now?
So we were saying, I was saying a victim of your success, in fact. Your own. No, so thanks a lot for the invitation, Muriel. Indeed, we know each other since a long time, with myself with different hats, but always dealing with research and innovation on the side of SMEs, on the side of innovation policy, now with the ERA, more the research and member states, and still with the organization. So I'm very, very pleased to be here, and also because EARTO is definitely a very important and key partner in all the actions we are putting forward, and in particular as well for what concerns us, therefore the ERA and ERA Act. So today I want to, and I'm sorry if some of you probably have heard already some of the things, but I always like to, in the presentation, to start with the general context where we are in, because I think it's very important to understand why we are getting up every morning and doing everything we do for for the RTOs, and also for on behalf of the Commission for all our stakeholders. Then I will focus on the ERA policy agenda, the new developments, and also indeed the ERA Act, which is the new kids in the block. So I can get questions at the end, unless there is something burning during the presentation. So I will try to keep it to 30 minutes, 40, I think I've been told, and then leave time for questions for this hour with you. So in my next slides, indeed, as I was saying, I always like to see and to show where we are with that. So on the left side, you see the reason why we are pleased, and we think it's an important moment, is because research and innovation has never been so high on the agenda, I think, with the clear recognition to be at the heart of the economy, as President von der Leyen mentioned in her political guidelines. And she reiterated as well in the State of the Union speech when she spoke about the single market roadmap and the importance of the fifth freedom for knowledge and innovation. We have the Letta report, the Draghi report, all going towards bringing the message that research and innovation is key, is important for competitiveness, and therefore should receive the adequate attention. On the right side, it is about an initiative that is actually the consequence, in a way, of the fact that research and innovation is not high on all the agendas everywhere in the world. And lately, indeed, there are issues in other parts of the world. And that's why there are researchers and innovators that are looking for the right place where to go and perform well their research and innovations. And that's why we launched the Choose Europe for Science. It was following the request as well by the member states, but we were already working on that. And the idea is to show everything that has been achieved until now that makes Europe the place where to be. But we know as well that this is not yet the end, because there are still improvements to be made if we want to deliver this message. So if we look at the centrality of research and innovation on one side, and the message that we want to give out on please choose Europe, because Europe is the place where you find the right framework condition for research and innovation, then we are talking about ERA. And ERA is it's the birthday of ERA, the 25th year's birthday this year. And in this small part at the center, you see everything that has been some of the key elements and the key achievements of the ERA. We are talking about the partnership, launch of EURACCESS, HR Excellence in Research Awards, the Research Infrastructure Consortium, Open Science Cloud. So you see that there has been a lot of activities ongoing and many achievements. So many times we hear, and it was also lately at the ERA forum, that researchers sometimes they don't know ERA, but what they probably don't know is this the acronym, the expression ERA, but they know for sure all the tools and the actions that have been developed and they are using daily. So this is just the context, and to say it is the moment now to really push on the accelerator for moving ERA really to the next phase. So if you go to the next slides, okay, this is the title, next, just a few information about ERA very quickly. ERA is enshrined in the treaty. This is very important, Article 179, so we are not inventing. We have a specific mandate in the treaty in order to build a single borderless market for research, innovation and technology across the EU. So this is in the treaty. They are asking for countries to come together and improve the research policy and systems, and also ensure that there is free movement of researchers, knowledge and innovation. It's very important to say that is in the treaty, because in the same treaty, and we will look at it afterwards, there is also another article that is under Article 182.5 that provides the possibility to act through legislative action to implement ERA, to move forward ERA. And this is what we are now aiming for the future. So coming back to ERA, what is important, and I think it's important especially for these constituencies, is to look at the governance, and this is the next slides. We have seen this is 25 years that ERA exists. It has not always been super active. We have achieved a lot with ERA, but I think the main boost was given in 2021 when there was the adoption of the Pact for Research and Innovation in Europe. There, for the first time, we put black on white, and in a council recommendation, the 10 values and principles of ERA, and then the priorities, these 4 priority areas where ERA needs to develop. Deepening ERA is mainly on the traditional areas of intervention of ERA, so researchers, you mentioned that before, mobility of researchers, etc. Broadening ERA, we were of course looking at the transition starting, therefore that ERA should also explore in the area of green and digital. Then there is the priority areas of amplifying access to excellence, and then advancing R&I investments and reform, which is key conditions for the performance of research and innovation systems. These areas of priorities needs to be have actions that move them forward, so to the implementation. And this is also something that is new in 2021, the idea of launching ERA policy agendas. So through the ERA policy agendas, the member states, but together also with the associated countries and the stakeholders, and this is the big novelty, decides to get together and propose and then implement actions that are aiming at achieving the objectives under the priority areas. We had a policy agenda 22-24 with 20 actions, and then is now the beginning of the ERA policy agenda 25-27 with 19 action, 11 structural and 8 properly ERA action. So what I think is very important, and is what has happened in 2021 is a renewed partnership where there is a recognition that we need to act all together. And it is a partnership between member states, including also associated countries, but also stakeholders and the Commission, of course. So the stakeholders, and the EARTO is a very important partner in that, are part of the ERA Forum, which is the forum that is the operational arm, let's say, of ERA, where all this co-creation has been taking place to define the specific ERA actions to be following. And this is very important because, of course, when we are talking about ERA, we are talking about also member state acting in their to move forward in their policies. But it's extremely important that the stakeholders are part of it, not only in the design, because it's an important reality check if what member states want to implement really respond to certain needs, and also it is it's a key role also in the, of course, implementation. So design and implementation. So this is the ERA Forum, member states, associated countries, stakeholders, and Commission, and then a meeting regularly 4 or 5 times a year. And then ERAC is at the level more strategic to give strategic advice and the guidance. It's at the level of Director Generals of the Ministry of Research in the member states. And then, of course, you have the Council, which is the final decision-making body. Other things very important, is important for you as well if you want to know what is going on with ERA, is the ERA policy platform, but also regularly reporting that was included in the with this new phase. So I think this is important, exactly, and the key message here is the partnership with the stakeholders, including EARTO, with all the members of EARTO, is key to move ERA forward. And that's why you are fully involved in the process. The next slide simply gives you an idea of what has been the achievement. This was part of the second EU level report that was issued in 25. So if you want to look at it, it's good to see what we have been achieving until now. But I want to move forward to the Agenda 25-27, once again to highlight that the Agenda 25-27 has been a full co-creation process. So once again, we are not talking about a Commission deciding which are the important actions to put forward, or the member states. It's really co-creation with all these actors, including stakeholders, and is based on fact, is based on the monitoring mechanism, the gap analysis. We had 2 feedback loops commenting in the ERA Forum through surveys and testing also the activities that were proposed. There were some missing, some gaps identifying the Commission communication, and this was taken into account, as well as the Council conclusion. So all these things together created the ERA Policy Agenda 25-27, which was adopted on the 23rd May 25. And I think there is important because EARTO was part of this co-creation. And what is important is that what came out from this co-creation that the Commission presented in its proposal was fully adopted as such, with all the actions proposed, with minimum changes by the Council. So I think this was a very important recognition by the Council itself, that all the co-creation work done by the stakeholders together with the member states, etc., was important and needed to be, let's say, respected in the final recommendation. So in my next slides, you can see what were these actions. there are 19 in total, 11 structural, 8 ERA properly action. The structural policy actions are those that are considered, let's say, the fil rouge in ERA, that are they keep they are fundamental, and they don't have a beginning or an end. It's something that will always be part of the agenda. But of course, we have tried to have 3 years planning now in order to see what to do during these 3 years. The ERA actions are normally new, and they start with the agenda and finish with the agenda with specific deliverable and outcomes. Now, in black, we had the bold, you see those were EARTO, but Muriel, to confirm, has expressed an interest to participate, and the one in red is where I understand that you have been probably expressing an interest to be sponsored, but I might be wrong. This was okay. Okay, very good. So once again, it is a thanks to EARTO, first of all, for engaging in so many actions, having an interest in following many actions, and also to take also possibly the role of sponsorship, which is very important, because this means really that there is a particular engagement also to involve other actors, to bring forward specific activities. So this is an extra, let's say, commitment by the stakeholders or the member states that want really to push forward the action. And of course, we are very grateful for that. Since you had expressed an interest here for accelerating R&D investment for Europe's industrial transformation, competitiveness, sustainability action, I had the 2 slides, but I'm sure that you are even more aware. But this is for in general to see what you see normally in the ERA agenda. For each of these actions, you will have indicated in the annex the objective and the outcomes. So the objectives, for instance, in this particular actions are to boost the private sector investment in research and innovation with a clear and structured approach that reflects industry needs and support practical use of research results. It's a matter of develop and test a systematic toolbox for assessing industrial needs, and it involves research infrastructure, develop investment agenda, and deployment of advanced sustainable technologies. This action, I learned that tomorrow there is the kickoff meeting. You are invited, of course. And just to tell you that, in fact, all the actions that you have seen on the policy agenda, normally adopted on the 25th of May, since that day, they are free to start. But each action has its own rhythms, and some have been just continuing from the past. Others are indeed having an official kickoff. And tomorrow is the kickoff of these actions, where you will be discussing together with the other member states, associated countries, stakeholders that have expressed an interest, what you really want to do. In terms of outcomes expected, but this is just what was, of course, in the decision. Here it is. But of course, tomorrow, I guess we will go even more in detail on that. But what you find in the recommendation is the mapping of the policy to supporting industrial R&I, having contribution to European policy on research and technology infrastructure. You know, the strategy was adopted recently, but of course, we have to move forward on that as well, and the implementation. Building and exchanging knowledge and expertise in national and industrial technology road mapping to decarbonize energy-intensive industries, and contributing to a European monitoring platform for technologies and industrial demonstrators. I mean, these are, and especially in this period, you have heard the speech of President von der Leyen. These are, again, top on the agenda. These are very critical areas of intervention. Therefore, I think once you work for an action like this, of course, you are, as a stakeholders as well, providing an important contribution to the development of the policy agenda of the EU. So I think this is, again, a very important opportunity to bring the contribution, and also to have your voice heard, because finally this is also the opportunity for you. So this was just an example. I'm not going through all the 20 actions, but I wanted to focus on one that I consider is of most interest for you. But if you want to read all of them and learn what they are planning to do, etc., in the next slides you have the links. The links, and also we advertised what is the ERA platform, which was updated. And you will find here, indeed, not only the pact, but also the policy agenda with its policy narrative, but also the annexes with all the actions. This platform contains many other information, but also it's not only the description of the actions, but also we will put in information on how they develop, when they start, etc. So, and what will be the achievements. So it's really a point of information which is very important. And with this, I have been covering the part of the ERA policy agenda. So one could say, if we have the policy agendas, if we have all these actions with so many commitments, why now we are talking about the ERA Act? And this is my next slides announcing what I will be talking about. Because we said that a lot has been achieved. We have exactly all these actions. Why we are now all of a sudden talking about an ERA Act, which is a legislative initiative. So in my next slides, I let's say complete the picture. We have been talking about ERA policy agenda. This is a non-binding instrument. So this is this is where you see the difference. All the actions that we have been mentioning, the policy agenda, this is a recommendation by the council, or you have council conclusion, but all these are not legally binding. So it means that these actions can be are to be performed, but member states are not obliged. Not every member state is obliged to be in all the actions or in any of these. It's really a voluntary collaboration and commitment to the areas of intervention that are considered more important. Of course, this has been working until now, and we have seen a lot of progress in many areas. But there are some certain areas where we have the impression that even with all the good commitments and willingness by member states and stakeholders, still it seems not to be enough in order to move really to the next stage and to achieve what we have been, what are the real objectives of ERA. So that's why there is a feeling that even if we have the ERA policy agenda, and even if we have ERA in Horizon Europe that is helping as well to move forward with these actions, because we have a CSA, the policy support facility. So this is the second pillar, let's say, of this overall framework. So here, of course, you have a wider work program, and even with these tools, still we are, for certain parts, we are not able to move forward and achieve the objective. So that's why in the mission letter of Commissioner Zarajeva, it was indicated clearly as a mandate to work on an ERA Act. What is the ERA Act? We will have to see how it develops, but the idea there is to make a difference between the voluntary of the ERA policy agenda and the legal instrument that will tackle enduring issues that cannot be solved through voluntary cooperation. So we are talking about measures that can foster free movement of researchers, knowledge and technologies, as the famous fifth freedom. And of course, we know that there have been a number of reflections starting. In my next slides, I show you a bit more in details the context for that. Again, of course, a letter report and Draghi are the basis of that. Commissioner letter I told you about, but what is important and made the difference is that one thing is to have the mandate of the commissioner, but still it was a really simple sentence, was not saying much. But the recognition of the importance of the ERA Act comes in the communication on the competitiveness compass of February 25, where under the chapter, the innovation, closing the innovation gap, that is when we are talking about the closing innovation gap towards also third countries that are moving much faster than us, the ERA Act is indicated as the key tool in order to achieve that. And in the competitiveness compass, you see as well 3 main areas of intervention specifically spelled out. So the first one is strengthen R&D investments and bring it up to the 3% GDP target. Again, all these areas of intervention, they come also from the recognition from Draghi and Letta that this still remains an issue. So first is the investment, the famous 3% GDP target, which has been there for many years and we have not been able to reach. Second part is the focus on research support, focus the research support more on strategic priorities, reinforce alignment, so it's more related to the coordination between member states and the alignment between EU and member states funding priorities. So it has to do with this alignment and also probably with some governance issue. And then the third part is probably the more traditional one, is to foster the circulation of knowledge and talent, which is the one that is more known and more recognized, and in a way it links to the framework conditions for researchers. The Commission proposal for ERA is planned for 26. And I will give you the timeline, the precise timeline also later. Now, just if we zoom in on a bit on the content, in the next slides, you see the content of the competitiveness compass. We have seen these 3 main areas: 3% GDP target, strategic priorities and alignment, and circulation of talents. Of course, when we want to target this priority, these areas of intervention, is because we recognize there is an issue, the issue of lack of investments, the issue of fragmentation, and the issue of administrative barriers with higher individual cost for researchers. So what does it mean? That if we want to elaborate the ERA Act, we need to go. We have these indications, but they are still quite open and not enough defined. So what we need to do is really to go into these areas to understand what are the potential sub-interventions in order to tackle these main objectives and issues. And already through the number of consultation, we had a number of actions and a number of areas of intervention that were identified. Knowledge valorization, for instance, AI in science, open science, gender, investments across the era, freedom of scientific research, mobility of researchers, and employability working condition again of researchers. These were coming up as some of the key areas that the ERA should be tackling. Now, one question that I might anticipate from your side, you say, okay, this is ERA, we see knowledge valorization, but would not this be part mainly of the Innovation Act? So when we are looking at ERA and what ERA needs to, what are the areas of intervention for ERA, it's important that we look as well at what are the other intervention from other initiatives. And we know that there are many acts ongoing. So one of these is the Innovation Act. It's easier for us, and this is the next slides, to collaborate with them because these are our next door colleagues in the directorate. So we have daily exchanges in order to be able to have 2 acts that are complementary and not overlapping. Of course, there are areas that are clearly from one side or the other, others that can look to be a bit in between. So the efforts, and maybe this is where you can also help, is to define what is the particular angle that we can look at also for these areas that are in let's say in common, just to avoid overlapping, but rather complementarities. So for knowledge valorization, it depends if you look at eventually from the researcher side and how we can help them, or from the company side and how the companies can be and the innovators can be helped. So we don't have only the Innovation Act, we have also many other acts that are important to be looking at. And what is important, since we are looking at a regulation, but we are very careful not to over-regulate, we are not there to put in ERA Act rules or laws that are already covered somewhere else. So this is another effort we have to do, and also we ask you as well. So when we are trying to put forward ideas for possible actions to be or rules to be included in the ERA Act, it's very important that these are not covered already somewhere else. And of course, the focus in our case is researchers. But the ERA Act can be a vehicle as well to complement existing regulations. And normally, I think colleagues as well, we try to work with colleagues across the Commission also in this way. Now, many things to look at the problems, how to solve them, what are the if it's really an issue to go through legislative or should be soft law. If we go legislative, what exactly we need to tackle? Is this tackled already by someone else or not? So it is a lot, and that's why we need a lot of consultation as well to be helped in this analysis. So the next one is the indicative planning for the ERA Act, the Commission proposal. So where do we stand? If you go to the next slide. Okay. So what we have been doing until now throughout 25 and what we are doing as well is consultation. So for us, this is the part, and you see this, the orange part is everything that we can get from stakeholders, member states, organizations, etc. We need to, as much as possible, have input from your side on the things that I've been mentioning. What are the real problems? What could be the solution? Is this overlapping or not? What concretely we can propose? That's why we have targeted consultation. The ERA Forum was the first one we consulted through a targeted workshop. And again, thanks to EARTO for its active participation to that. We keep discussing it as well and giving updates in the ERA Forum, because for us, this is an extremely important. But of course, we want to extend the consultation. That's why we had the call for evidence that was launched during August, and I have 1 or 2 slides on that. This will be followed by another public consultation, much more in details, where we go in details on the different areas with specific questions. This is what we get in terms of consultation, but we need as well evidence in terms as well of impact assessment study. And this is what we are launching as well in order to have an expert group, that consultant that will be looking at again developing even more the idea of the impact assessment with the problem tree and all this impact assessment technique that are that we need indeed to use, and we need to use them because the Commission itself is the first one to check if it makes sense to go forward this way. Exactly, not to over-regulate, to think about simplification and to really be useful through our act. That's why we will have to transform all these results of the call for evidence, all the results of the impact assessment in an impact assessment final report that will be then used to go through the scrutiny board. And if everything goes fine, Q3 of 2026, we have the Commission proposal adopted with the ERA Act. Now, zooming in very quickly, because I want also to give credits again to EARTO, so as in my next slides, on your contribution to the call for evidence for the ERA Act. It was open, the call for evidence, from the 6th of August to 10 September. This is a first, let's say, announcement with a short paper saying, okay, we are going to work on an ERA Act. These are in general the areas. Please let us know what you think about it. So it was quite general, and the target respondents were all stakeholders from national regional administrations and the regional and innovation communities. So it was really the first, okay, it's advertising, something will be done, but it was very nice because in my next slides, you see that we received, even if it was the summer, 178 answers from 29 countries. We had a number of responses, of course, from academic and research institutions, but also non-governmental organizations, where we include, for instance, the associations, company and business, and EU citizens. So there was quite a wide range of answers. And what was interesting to see, it was that we saw a strong support for the ERA Act and its main objectives, and also alignment of the contribution around key priorities, problems, and objectives, which I will show you in the next slides. So what we have received, for instance, but this is like a small snapshot, but we will come back with a full report on the contribution that we have received. And again, thanks to EARTO as well, because your contribution was very well received and also very detailed already to be the first contribution to the discussion. So in general, what we could see in terms of many contributions came on academic freedom. There was a shared sense of urgency. So it is clear that it is understood also that it's very important to act and to act now. So this is something that you can feel and you can see from the answers. There are also already some concrete proposals, like creating an ombudsperson for the defense and support of academic freedom. Then the 3% target was mentioned. It's in your paper too. Proposal for new R&D semester, research careers and mobility. This is also targeted in your paper. Call for common minimum standard for research contracts was mentioned, portability of social benefits, aligned visa and residence procedures for non-EU researchers. And of course, you see, when we are talking about visa, of course, we are moving to another area of intervention under responsibility, for instance, of another Directorate General, but still we are working with them closely in order to see whether we can do something for that. Data sharing, etc. So there was a references as well to knowledge valorization, including science for policy, research and technology infrastructure, and what I was saying, a call for aligning with the Innovation Act and other initiatives like a union of skills. So already to be the first call for evidence running during the summer, we are very pleased for the interest that this has raised and the inputs that we have received. But this was the first and general one. So we are continuing, as I was telling you, with the public consultation. I can announce already to you that it will be open on Monday. Next slides. And in this case, it's a much more detailed request for input. There is a specific questionnaire divided in different areas of intervention. And for each of these areas, we are asking to identify amongst the one indicated, but also with the free text, the key problems that you see, but also possible solutions. When we are talking about possible solutions, and I was discussing this also with Muriel, because we can indicate a lot of problems, but we are now trying to focus on those problems that we consider legislation could address. And it's very important that also when we are talking a possible solution, we think about what in a legislative terms we could eventually propose, and trying to be as specific as possible. As I said, this you will find it in Have Your Say portal. We have put here the link that is where you don't find yet the stakeholders consultation, but you will is the area where this will be posted. And I cannot just repeat that your input is, of course, extremely welcome, and is extremely welcome. And I think this is also important to say, because I think that there is a good moment to act, and also member states themselves, I think they are quite keen in listening how they could really improve their R&I system. And this is simply because they realize that, especially in this period, any improvement that can be made will have an extremely positive impact and let's say return on the investments done, because we know that there are many researchers and innovators there out looking for what Europe is doing. And if we give the right signals through the ERA Act, that there are few key important aspects that will be tackled and where Europe will work together. I think researchers to create this important R&I system and friendly R&I system, I think, I mean, there is a lot of attention there and it will be of benefit to everyone. So I think I stayed with my 40 minutes and my next slide is the thank you for the attention. I hope it was not too much, too quick, but I always like to put everything in perspective because it's a nice story about ERA, and I think we are writing now the next chapter, and it's nice that we write it all together, knowing where we come from and where we can, being ambitious in where we want to go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Magda. Thank you very much for the overview. Actually, I think it's very good to put in the overall context because there is a lot of things working in parallel. So sometimes it's hard even to follow because there is so many actions running in parallel. That's the challenge probably for us as stakeholder on the other side. So it makes a super a good picture of all the different action turnaround. So thank you very much for that. We have few questions in the chat. I will pick those one up, and those who still didn't put in the chat but want to raise questions, just raise your hand and I will go through all the raised hand one by one. So the first question was from Romana from GSI, one of our members, who I think when you were discussing co-creation was asking about the parliament. You have to know Romana is one of our members who was ex-MEP.
Ah, very good.
Some legislation back, so I understand Romana question. I don't know, actually. I didn't really work with the parliament, more with the Council when we did ERA, but you know that better than I, so.
Yeah. So in terms of, yeah, it's true, because in the ERA Forum, we have institutions like we have the Committee of the Regions, so we have the European Economics and Social Committee. We don't have a representative from the parliament, it's true, but parliament is fully, we are in contact with the parliament because they know what we are working on, and for instance also in topics like freedom of scientific research, I know that there is a lot of mobilization, so we intervene in all different workshops and fora where we are invited, and we keep parliament informed. We invite the parliament as well in debates that we are organizing. You have seen in the R&I days MEPs in fact invited to the different discussion. We would have even wanted more, but it was the Green Week, we learned, or Red Week, I don't know, but anyway, people were not available. But it's true. So they are not part of the ERA Forum, true, but I mean, they are indeed involved in the discussions.
Allez, super. And I think on the per actions probably differ where the parliament may be interested, yes or no. Yeah. Another question. It was Andrej who was asking if there's going to be an ERA action just on the research and tech infra, but I think you may have answered this one with the slides on action 16, but maybe you want to precise that action 16 may be a little larger.
No, I let you doing it because
okay.
because I'm sure you know more.
Yeah, so we need action 16, which used to be the old action 12. It has been revamped and renumbered. You still have bioeconomy and decarbonization of industry. And you have a third sub area, which is research and technology infrastructure. So that will be under the action 16 now. And there will be specification for research and technology infrastructure, especially the first one will be access charter of access to technology infrastructure, and a discussion on future funding programs, how to run that after for the second in the future MFF. So Horizon Europe 2.0, in the ERA pillar, there will be a program for RTI, and here there will be discussion what to do for the tech infra. So I think that action 16 will partly prepare those discussions, and we offered as EARTO to be a formal sponsor, so people who drive that part at least of action 16. And I expect others will also raise the hand, so we will be a group helping for that one. So yes, there will be, but under action 16. That's, I think, the plan for that. Another question from Elke was to give some example for regulation that may have been proposed or you are thinking of on knowledge valorization. So I don't know if there is already ideas on that area, because that's hard.
Yeah, well, as I say, we are rather looking for the moment at the problems inside and really scanning and trying to identify what is possible to do. But there are no specific proposals yet.
Okay, so then I think we will be prepared. It's still discussion. So in case you have suggestions, always happy to hear. Then another topic, because AI is so wide. So Magda, you have to cover so many areas. Lula, who is from a member of VTT, was asking for mobility of researcher. Please consider that there is researcher which are not only university and that they need at least an RTO exemption for the RDI career on the posted of worker regulation. I know that for some of our members where the member states have been a bit heavy on implementation, this is quite of a very heavy administrative burden for mobility of researcher. So the A1 posting is still an issue in terms of, and this is a regulation to be adapted actually. So that will be.
Exactly. So this brings me to an important point indeed that I mentioned, but I like also to reiterate. In fact, when we are looking at the ERA Act, we are not only looking at regulations to come completely new. The ERA Act can be also suggesting either additional actions or additional articles that were not foreseen in a regulation that are specific to researchers and were missing, or if you see that there are there is a need of a modification or derogation, etc., this is also something that we can use the ERA Act for. Of course, in full cooperation with the other services, when they really realize that indeed there was a missing element that can be complemented without creating overlapping or without creating issues. But I think this is also, it's very nice at this moment to really open up and consider all the possibilities in terms of legislative act, what could be, because could be simply hard law, could be a new hard law, could be proposing derogations or having additional elements to existing regulation, and could be also, if we want, but I don't know, add also soft law if we want to make it like an umbrella that looks at all R&I spectrum and also having the part related to soft law. But for me, the most important is to concentrate on the hard law, and any aspects like the one you just mentioned, where there are specific angles that have not, but maybe they don't come automatically to in consideration. It's good that you bring it forward. So I think already there was something, while we discussed slightly this, I think, Muriel, I don't know, I think it was even in your contribution, this aspect, correct? So feel free also to reiterate when we go more in detail with the stakeholders consultation to explain exactly what do you mean, what is really the issue, how do you think it will be solved, can be solved, and also if you know that there are already regulations, why do you think that these are not covering this part, and this is essential. And the same that I wanted to say is, yeah, I forgot. Okay, it will come back.
Come back. Okay, so noted. I think we had many regulation on employment regulation, which are not linked to RDI, which affect the way RTOs actually employ their researchers, because we're not academics. So we have very different system than academics, also for career of researchers, which are more linked to legal setup industry, but that don't automatically fit us. We have a kind of a parallel system, which is not industry and is definitely not academics, but looks more like industry, and also it differs per country. So when per legal setup of the RTO, that also varies. So sometimes it makes complicated. The comment will fit some certain part of RTOs and not all either. So career of researcher is a little more complex in our side and less unified than it may be for the academics, for example.
Okay.
So we have another comment from Carol Miranda, if I'm not wrong, is EARTO in France. Why research? So thank you very much for the holistic presentation. And why research infrastructures are in ERA Act? and technology infrastructure in the Innovation Act, while in FP10 or Horizon Europe 2.0 proposal, they will be under the ERA pillar. Oh, yeah.
Yes, good question, but we are going to see, to look at that as well. Well, of course, we have a full strategy that put them together, of course. We have also, they are together, yeah, exactly, in the, for the ERA pillar. But yeah, in this case, we will have to see exactly how, this is probably one of the two, those areas where we have to work together with our colleagues and see where it better fits. And if there are specificities, we follow that in the different areas and then creating then the link afterwards. Yeah. But this is something that exactly, it will come up also from the consideration that we receive.
I must say it didn't shock us so much in the sense that what ERA has been looking and the Innovation Act is looking at the access of charter for SMEs, including startup and scale up. So they take different angles.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Another question from Eva from EURAC and a member of EARTO in Italy. Are future action including all actors in the research cycle who contribute to better research? So researchers as well and research managers. I think you do have some actions, but I think there is some action on the research management, right? With the ARMA too, if I'm
yes,
correct.
indeed. Yeah, indeed. We have an action and this, well, we are not using numbers. So I'm going back also to my, and
maybe Milan, if you want to go back to the slide with all the actions.
Yeah. And it was presented and kicked off at the last ERA forum, the part on research assessment. Yeah. So yeah, if you see that
the 8, I think, new ERA in research management.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, indeed. So it is there, and yeah, there are a number of activities. It has been kicked off at the last meeting, and yeah, so we are covering that.
There's another question also from Lula, which is the link between the ERA Act and the ERA section in Pillar 4, sorry, of Horizon Europe 2.0. Yeah. So to know, are you going to take on maybe what you're planning now for that future pillar?
Look, it will be, there is a bit of an issue with also the timing, because we have to see when, because one thing is the proposal of the Commission, that is 26, then we have to see when this will be finally agreed by the Council. If there is any way to create a link between the two and time consistency will allow that. Of course, we will try to make use of it. Of course, on one side, it's true also that we are using ERA, of course, for the implementation of the policy agenda, which is voluntary and helps member states. On the other side, when we will have a regulation, it will be really on things that needs to be done. But of course, if there is a possibility to link the two, we will do.
Okay, super. I hope that answers. And I think there was one precise question on what type of legal act are you thinking for the ERA Act, a regulation or a directive?
So this is also, again, something to be decided, to be considered. Of course, we know very well that if we want to have something ambitious and quickly implementable, it has to be a regulation. Directive, of course, gives a bit more flexibility and also more lengthy implementation, because you create the framework and then you leave to the member states to apply. So it will depend as well, or it can also depend on the different actions that we want to push forward. So it's something as well where we can also get input from your side. We know that regulation will probably be more challenging for member states, but yeah, maybe the moment requires strong actions and being ambitious. But as our commissioner said during the R&I days, we need to be ambitious and realistic. So of course, we are not going against with our heads against the wall. We try anyway to be realistic, but I think it's also very important to keep in mind the positive momentum we are in and being ambitious, at least in the proposal of the Commission.
Okay, super. And I think one last question in the chat from Michael, member AIT in Austria. Will ERA Act help aligning funding rules between EC program and national co-funding program? That's for the 3% target. Yeah. This would be utmost important for Horizon Europe 2.0 when there will be more national co-funding for some project types needed. So could that be one of the ambition of the ERA Act to help on the co-funding rules?
Let's say that for sure what we are trying to do is, and you have seen in the second area of intervention, is really to help alignment and coordination with member states and also funding priorities. So anything that is not covered by the regulations already existing, because, okay, MFF is a regulation as well with specific rules and also on the complementarities and synergies. If there is something that is left that an ERA Act can act on, of course, this is also something that we can consider. I've been working a lot on synergy, so I know perfectly how important that is, but it could be that it's all solved with the new MFF, solved with the new MFF regulation, and there will not be need of any other aspects on or rules on that. But for sure, I think what is important, and I think this is also another type of discussion that we can that can be put in ERAC, is also to look at the governance and to see exactly also in this coordination of actions between member states, alignment with the Commission, etc. What is the role that ERA can play with its body, like ERAC? There is the competitiveness coordination tool that tries to elaborate projects that have the research and the industrial side. So how we can, I think there is a lot of also the space to discuss and to consider also the governance on that. But I'm telling this without having a clear ideas, but I feel that also this could be something that the ERA Act can tackle.
Okay, super. Maybe that's something we, for your information, we have been working on text amendments and comments on all the regulation, ECF and Horizon Europe and the specific program where there is staff on co-funding, but we didn't look if there was something missing, what to add in the ERA Act. So we will go back to that one. And Michael is one of the working group financial experts of EARTO. So I'm sure, Michael, you hear me? Let's pick that one up. I think that's a good question, Magda. I could not answer that one. Maybe, but and maybe not. Or maybe things are not that precise that it's not forbidden, but it's not maybe so much helped. So maybe there is things that will help further. Okay. We take
the problem
that
is that it's all. The problem is that it's also new that we are also trying to understand. But okay, we will not miss the opportunity if it's needed.
Something for us to think further. Cool. And I see one last question before we close from Miguel saying, thank you very much for the useful presentation. Will there be ERA associated country in the future, or will association continue to apply to framework program? ERA associated country. Oh, that could be that's a new twist to the association. So I don't know, maybe one idea.
I mean, associated countries are fully part of ERA anyway. They are part of course, of the ERA forum. They participate in ERAC. They are observers. But so in a way, they are associated to ERA. But okay, we have not considered it in the same modalities of the framework contract. But okay, why not? This is also something that can be considered.
Thank you so much. Then I think I have to let you guys go on time. And thanks, Magda, so very much. Thank you so much for all the answers, questions, and giving us the broad understanding. I think there is a lot of actions and many things running, and very important EARTO domain. So you see, you get a lot of congrats also virtually. So thanks again, Magda, for the great collaboration and for taking the time for us today. So I hope you can. Thank you very much. I hope you all enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Thank you, Magda.
Thank you. Thanks for the attention. Bye. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.